that all members of the town council are present, as is John Apple, our assistant town manager, Cliff Gravier, our town manager, Will Wharton, our IT director, and Molly Daisy, our clerk. Before we get started, I would like to ask Mr. Gravier to explain to those at home how they can ask questions or participate in this meeting.
Mayor, if you're viewing this meeting on our YouTube platform or at the town's website, you may submit questions, comments, or concerns regarding any topic that's on the agenda by writing questions at townofbethanybeach.com, all lowercase. Again, questions at townofbethanybeach.com. We do have a 3 to 4 minute delay in broadcast to both our website on our homepage and YouTube, so we will not get your questions immediately, but we will respond to all questions. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gravier. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Does somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 21st, 2021. Do I have any motion on the floor?
So moved. Second.
Any changes, corrections? None? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the financial report. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. This report covers the budget through May 31st, 2021. We are 16% through our fiscal year 2022. On the revenue side, in total, we have collected 47.7% of the budgeted revenue as compared to 34.8% at this same time last year. On the expense side, we have expended 13.7% of our budgeted amount compared to 12% expended this time last year. Recognizing that this report is subject to audit, I respectfully move that the council accept and approve this unaudited report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Kilmer, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, first, any discussion?
One,
Sorry.
Mr. Morris, if we could, when we have the year-end report, I'd like to review that in context of where we stand for our long-term planning aspects, where we are at the end of the year, and then what we have coming up for the next 5 and the following 5. At least gets us 10 years out to look. Thank you.
We should do that at our next budget meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, I'll retake that vote again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda would be announcements, recognition of visitors, and public comment. Does anyone have anything?
Yes, I have an announcement.
Okay, thank you.
With great sadness to inform you that our dear friend and colleague Jerry Dorfman passed away on Thursday, May 27th, at the age of 86, after a long and courageous battle with cancer. He passed away in the comfort of his home with his wife Sherry by his side. Prior to retiring to Bethany Beach, Jerry had a successful real estate business in and around the Philadelphia area, followed by a commercial and industrial uniform business which he operated with his wife Sherry. He retired to Bethany Beach 21 years ago. Jerry was elected to the Bethany Beach Town Council in 2005, where he served for 9 years as a councilman and 6 years as a town secretary-treasurer. Jerry also served 6 years on the board of directors of the Bethany West Homeowners Association. In addition to his wife, Sherry, of 41 years, Jerry also has 3 daughters. Personally, Jerry was a very close friend of mine who always had a great sense of humor, loved to go to the movies with Cliff and I once a month, followed by us all going out to various local restaurants. Jerry regularly followed all the professional Philadelphia sports teams, especially baseball, football, and ice hockey. He will be greatly missed, and please keep him, Sherry, and his family in your prayers.
Thank you, Mr. Kilmer. I think we'll all miss Jerry. He was a fixture around here, and I think Mr. Gravier will especially miss his advice.
Yes, yes, I will.
We all will.
He was
very
quite a
frugal.
man. yes.
He was. We love you, Jerry. Okay, and no, there are no comments from the public, I guess, so far? None?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no old business, I'll turn it over to, oh, no, report from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, I'll give it on behalf of Mr. Boswell, our chairperson. For the last several months, the Planning and Zoning Commission has been focusing on creating a new 10-year comprehensive plan. We're at the stages of what we're trying to do is focus on responding to all the goals that we've already had in our former plans, and to basically recognize how well we've done, and then also include any changes or any new goals that we like to have in the 2022 to 2032 plan. So that's been our focus right now. And once we get that done, then we'll get involved with the state to help us with the other issues that they can be very helpful with, especially updating all the charts and tables, which they can do very nicely for us out of University of Delaware, the Institute of Public Administration. So that's where we are, and that's going to be a bit of a process still, and hopefully everything will be done this fall, and then going on to the council for us for approval, then going on to the State Planning Commission for their review, and then be approved by legislator and the governor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Kilmer. Next item is a report from the Pedestrian and Bicycle Committee. Mrs. Denault.
Thank you, Mayor. The Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee met yesterday, June 17th. All members were present except for Mickey Hinman, who was excused. Sergeant Patrick Foley of the BBPD reported that the PD noticed that several employees from the business next door were riding bikes to and from work that were not equipped with flashing lights. So the PD proceeded to equip all of their bikes. As a result of their efforts, the owner of the business sent a letter of appreciation to the PD for, quote, really helping to improve the safety of these kids when they have to ride home in the dark at night, end quote. Sergeant Foley then stated that they conducted a surprise pop-up safety checkpoint that resulted in 25 bikes being stopped and equipped with flashing lights. He mentioned that Chief Redmond was able to acquire 300 lights via a grant for those safety checkpoints. He also went on to state that the PD, via a grant, dedicates over 80 overtime hours during the summer months to educate the public on pedestrian safety tips. The PD also surveyed and distributed pamphlets regarding safety tips for any of their employees and the public who may bike to and from work. The PD has a large presence on both Instagram and Facebook, where they publish safety and educational information to the public. The committee asked if the state law requiring anyone under the age of 18 to wear bike helmets could be posted on there, as it was felt that visitors may be unaware of this state law. Excuse me. John Apple then displayed maps of various streets in the town where road and signage improvements have been made or are in development, such as the Collins Street pathway, proposed crosswalk off Kent Avenue to at the library to Wellington Parkway. This walkway will also include the RRFB system to facilitate pedestrian crossings and upgrades to the and also upgrades to the crosswalks at Route 26 at the Wawa and in front of the DeFibos. Mr. Gravier discussed several other projects under consideration, such as proposing to the town council that an elevated walkway similar to the one at the Nature Center be constructed between 7th Street and the walkway at Central on Route 1, and Route 1. This would allow the people on the north side of 26 to avoid having to cross 26 to walk up to the light. Town is still waiting for DP&L to provide electric to the flashing crosswalk lights on Route 1. He also mentioned that DelDOT has become more amenable to working with towns on walkway installations and lowering speed limits on some town streets. The suggestion is to post speed limit signs 15 miles an hour to give the BBPD some room to enforce speed limits. Mr. Rosenblatt made a motion to the committee to offer a recommendation to the town council that the committee endorses Mr. Gravier's 2 proposed projects: the pathway between Second and Central, and for the installation of the 15-mile-an-hour signs on designated roadways throughout town. The motion was unanimously approved by the committee members, and a formal recommendation will be prepared and presented to council. The discussion then turned to the use of technology in helping to further educate residents and visitors on safety tips. We then discussed the development of a volunteer group to address a continuing campaign for pedestrian and bicycle safety. One recommendation was to utilize the mobile flashing signs with reminders for bikes and vehicles to, quote, share the road, and the need for everyone to always be aware of what's going on around them in terms of vehicle and bike traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Denault. Anybody have any questions or?
Yeah, one request, how about on Garfield Parkway between US 1 and the bridge into Ocean View, if we couldn't put some signage on the ground for one-way traffic for bikes. That's, there's no signage on there. I had one instance the other day where there was a complaint that someone was trying to make a right-hand turn, looked to the right, saw no one. The traffic was very heavy, went to pull out, and a bicycle pulled right in front of them from the, coming from the wrong direction. From a safety standpoint, that I seem to run into that more often. I worry about that with the bike. The bikers have some responsibility for the safety too.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was impressed too with the amount, with the pop-up thing. It's not just to install lights, but educating the people who stop. And I think some of the people on your committee volunteered to assist with the pop-up and putting on lights.
If their knees will
Yeah,
allow it.
yeah,
yes,
if they would. Thank you very much, Mrs. Denault. The next item on the agenda is a report from the town manager, Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, council, as Ms. Denault just mentioned, one of the things that I will be coming to you to discuss in July is the suggestion that we consider, the council consider, posting lower speed limits on our residential speed limit signs, which are all 25 mile per hour. As we have discussed in the past, this is not something that essentially we will enforce in terms of tickets written for violations of speeds over 15. Violations can only be written for a violation that's over 25 mile per hour. But I think more than anything, this would be something that we should do. And over the years, I've not thought it a good idea, but I reached the point where I now do, to remind people to slow down. We continue to get complaints on some very quiet residential streets about people speeding. We will go out, we'll measure the speeds, we'll find out that maybe 1% of the vehicles that travel these roads travel over 25 mile per hour, and all the rest are 25 mile per hour or under. The real problem is that our streets aren't designed to accommodate vehicles traveling 25 miles per hour. In lowering the limits or posted limit to 15, I think that will also make it easier for the police department to want to write tickets for those people who travel 30 miles an hour, and generally they don't. They allow enough of a buffer, generally 8 to 9 to 10 miles per hour, before they like to write a ticket. And they feel that that's the way they should work, so their tickets are more fair. And so generally, you will not see a police officer write a ticket for someone traveling 30 in a 25. But I think posting the limit to 15, letting people see that, letting visitors see that, letting that be its own reminder to try to travel more slowly might be some kind of a help. We're never going to be able to redesign the community to have streets that will accommodate vehicles traveling 25 miles per hour, especially in the summertime, and I think this might be a solution. We will thoroughly vet this, though we have discussed it in the past with the T2 Center from the University of Delaware, and we'll vet it again. Again, we've had discussions in the past with our solicitor to make sure that it's something we can do. Some people may think it's an empty gesture, but I think it's something we should consider, and I'll bring that to you in a more formal proposal in July. The second thing we discussed yesterday at the Pedestrian and Bicycle Committee was the possibility of creating a pathway of some sort, not necessarily an entirely elevated pathway, but a path that it would be similar to what we do have in the Nature Center, which is elevated where it needs to be, where there's some area of marsh, and when it doesn't overtake or overtop a marsh, it's a crush and run that's environmentally sound and safe and compatible. Some sort of a path that would take us from 2nd Street on the west side to Central here on the east side for pedestrians and cyclists. That would connect that whole quadrant of town, Evans, Tingle, actually flow in a little bit to the villas at Bethany Beach, because there is a cut through there, would allow people in Lake Bethany to walk down and then just take a short jig to the north to be able to come all the way to the east side of town and use the new crosswalk here at 1 and Central. This is something that was proposed many years ago by one of our mayors. Early in my tenure as manager, it was tied with an effort by the developer to develop his property, and the current mayor suggested that that become a roadway. That was not given a lot of consideration, and as a matter of fact, what did happen when that occurred is that 2 people from the area of the Gibson-Wiegand area decided to run for council, were successful with the thought that they would fight that, and they just did not want that in their backyard. I believe this is something that's a significant benefit for safety, for pedestrians and cyclists. I think it's a great accommodation for the people that live north of Route 26, and I hope when we begin to consider it, the council looks at it favorably. We're not just going to suggest a pathway. One of the things that we're doing right now is putting together a grant request to submit to DENREC to ask them to help fund, it would be a 50% funding of a plan we hope to create that looks at creating this sort of a pathway and looks at restoring the property, the Walchuk property, and the Demetatitis property that adjoins it. That's a total of about 14 acres now. A significant portion of that property is Phragmites, and one of the things that we could do to restore that entire area, make the marsh more viable, create that sponge that everybody talks about, because Phragmites does not do that. It actually counters that everyone hopes the marsh is to kill the Phragmites and replant with native species in that entire area. At the same time we're going to do that, we're going to look at what we might be able to do in conjunction with some national societies like Audubon and others to make that an area that attracts birds and somehow create a little bit of a way that people that would want to take advantage of bird watching and some nature observation to utilize the property. We're not talking about cutting a pathway through it as we did with the Nature Center, but something that actually makes it more than just a piece of fallow ground that no one utilizes. So a path, a restoration of the marsh, and some way to make it a little more natural and friendly than it is, because a significant portion of it is Phragmites and an invasive species which has essentially destroyed the ecosystem of the tidal marsh in that property. So we'll submit that. We don't know how that goes, but hopefully by the grant approval or grant review. But we'll bring more details along with some overheads and a possible diagram of what we're speaking about to you in July. A couple of comments here about Route 26. Route 26, as I say, and as I've been accused of always saying about everything, is DelDOT's roadway. We will ask DelDOT to take a look at the arrows, and hopefully that's something they can accomplish fairly quickly. But do remember, in our last meeting, I mentioned the fact that DelDOT is going to be doing a very detailed on-site assessment of Route 26 this summer. That came out of a request from Ms. DeFebo, or the DeFebo Market, rather, to take a look at a crosswalk immediately in front of her new market, taking people across the street in close proximity to her restaurant. DelDOT took a look at that. They just refreshed some of the crosswalks or the piano keys for crosswalks on 26, but with that came a commitment to actually be on the ground in the summer and do a hard review of things that might make Route 26 a little more safe. People are referring to the work that's recently been done in Ocean View, and that was done as a result of a similar study that Ocean View had conducted last year. Again, as I mentioned in the meeting yesterday, DelDOT continues to be far more attentive than they have in the past to the needs of local municipalities, and the review of Route 26 will be one of those things that, again, shows their new willingness to work and to help us as best they can. We had mentioned that you might have some issues reaching the building here because of the installation of our new phone system. In fact, the phones were out for the better part of a week, and it had nothing to do with the new phone system. It had something to do with problems that Verizon itself and one of their carriers was having. But with that said, we now have cable in the building, and we have completed most of the wiring that we need to do to convert. And hopefully here in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll begin that conversion, hopefully seamlessly. But what goes seamlessly in the world of computers and IT? So, no reflection on you, Will. So that will be a change that we will be making. We also hope by the end of July to have somewhere between 6 and 8 electrical vehicle stations, charging stations installed in the area of Pennsylvania Avenue and Atlantic on both the north and south side, and possibly in our gravel parking lot just on the east side of the Blue Crab. We think it's something we can accomplish, and we're encouraged by our interactions with the Electrical Vehicle Institute and their willingness to help us. Much of this is contingent on easily bringing electric to these stations, and since we intend to do them in general in proximity to poles with supplies on them or in-ground systems with supplies on them, we hope it's something we can accomplish. If we don't do it in July, it's something that will be accomplished shortly thereafter. We're having a real issue with our land spit project at Lake Bethany. We have hit a brick wall in terms of permitting with DENREC, and with that, we will be asking the mayor here in this coming week to contact our state legislators and see if they can ask DENREC to sort of move this ahead before we lose more trees on that land spit and have more of an issue with that piece of property eroding. And it would be very difficult in today's permitting environment to restore it as it is. You all know that we put together a recommendation, and the council voted to do it, that we allow residential parking with people displaying residential parking permits on our street ends and our beachfront lots. One of the things we promised to do is to monitor the impact on revenue, and hopefully that it would not have a real negative impact and it would be well received by residents. We were wanting to measure, we have not begun to do that, but we will take a look at how well utilized it is by residents. But one of the things we have been able to look at is revenue, coin revenue, meter revenue, pay to park, park mobile. And right now, we're seeing 11% more usage of our pay to park system than we did last year. We're not clear. It's hard for us to make a determination on the beachfront lots because many people use the machines in those lots to pay to park on Atlantic Avenue. So we're never going to have a very super clean idea of exactly what the impact is. We're going to have to look at the overall impact. And hopefully this trend continues through to, for the rest of the summer. Kent Avenue, last meeting, the council passed a resolution lowering the limit on Kent Avenue to 25 mile per hour. That again was one of those things that we were surprised at how willing DelDOT was to work with us. And I'm pleased to be able to tell you that it's now posted 25, and the police department is doing enforcement on that roadway at 25 mile per hour. DelDOT also promised to consider lowering the speed south of our jurisdiction, our jurisdictional limits, once we had our 25 mile per hour signs in, and we will remind them of that and see if they intend to do that. Because we continue to compete with an incredible unemployment benefit that continues to be offered, we're having an incredibly hard time staffing our Public Works Department. In 2019, we had 16 seasonal employees, and this year, all we've been able to add is 9. This has had a real and immediate impact on a number of things that we do. Most notably is that we have not installed our Moby mats yet, and we have not been able to...
That's my doctor, but I'm sorry.
Doctor, my eyes. Yes.
Are you okay?
That's quite all right.
I'm a little embarrassed, but aside from that, I'm okay.
So he's not a psychiatrist, is he?
Welcome back, Bruce.
It's already had an impact on our Moby mats, and we have not to date been able to clean our beach. For those that are not aware, and maybe many of you aren't, hopefully you remember that we've spent a sizable amount of money here in just in the last few years to buy a new beach cleaning machine. We clean the beach 3 to 4 nights during the summer, every week. And it's really necessary. We pick up a lot of debris, and to date we have not, and some of our visitors and residents are beginning to notice. We hope to have the beach cleaned for the first time this evening, and we hope to have most of the Moby mats finally installed probably in the very early hours of Sunday. We apologize for any inconvenience, but again, we've had a real problem with staff and assigning people to do different tasks. With that said, this is also the time of year at the very beginning of the season where we use excess staff to help clean our swales west of Route 1. The swales in Bethany West and other areas that have become clogged over the winter. When we bring those extra 10, 12, 15, 16 people in at the very beginning of the summer, that gives us a little bit of latitude to get that work done. That has not been done, and we have had to resort to hiring independent crews to come in and begin to work on those swales. They were out here this past, just today, I think, and was it yesterday, John? Done a great job. They're expensive, but we'll employ them to finish this work as opposed to letting the swales continue to hold water throughout the summer. I'm particularly glad at this moment that we have scaled back our entertainment, that we're only doing the one bandstand performance in the movie, because I hate to think of what we would have in terms of debris to clean up and problems in setup for anything with our lack of staff. We are not just standing by with this. We have continued to advertise in local papers for staff, but have decided to click it up one notch and go to a digital format, which we hope is more popular and more accessible to younger people who may have an interest in these positions. As I said at the beginning of this, we're competing with some unusual unemployment benefits. We're competing with places like Chick-fil-A that advertise $15 an hour to start, and again, not a lot of interest, not many J1 students available, but we hope to overcome that. But it has been a real problem at the beginning of the summer. Mayor, Council, that's all I have.
Questions? Mr. Kilmer?
Yes, Cliff, I have a question regarding the charging stations. They will be placed in existing pay-to-parking spots?
And they'll continue to be pay-to-park spots and charging spots.
And are these metered charging stations?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. I just was
It's,
curious.
no, and it's similar to what Ocean City has used in different areas,
Yeah.
so.
One of the things that we've been dealing with at the league is some legislation coming from Delaware that's basically mandating this kind of stuff, and we just felt it was inappropriate with home rule to sit there and have Dover tell communities where and when to put in these charging stations. I'm glad that we're doing it on our own without being forced to, but I thought, I just want to let people know that it was a lot, almost all 57 communities a part of the Delaware League were against what the state was trying to do.
Well, if we have success with this, and it is as simple and easy as it may seem, maybe that's something the league can use to encourage other municipalities to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't against the charging
No,
station.
I understand that.
It was.
It was the idea that the state was mandating that you do this.
Yes,
Right.
and also to change all our codes, to mandate
Mm-hmm.
that all major, major redevelop, major, what do I want to, when you do a house over again?
Building or renovation?
Yeah, a major renovation and all new construction has to have charging stations within the property. Again, I thought that was a little over the top, because some people who are doing a major renovation who don't have why should they be mandated to put that in there? So I think, at least from my own personal perspective, if you can afford like a Tesla, you can surely afford to have that put in your house while making a mandatory change your ordinances within our communities at this point in time. Maybe in the future it'd be more appropriate, but almost all the members, all 57 and the 3 counties were not happy the way the state was dealing with this issue.
I think everybody points to Tesla, but Tesla makes that part of the package when you buy your vehicle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but
The
I
in-
mean,
the install,
Yeah, but I'm
so.
talking, it was the cost
Yes,
of it, yeah. Rather than changing our code at this point, to mandate it.
Well, I think what everyone was offended by was the fact that
It
the
was-
state was saying, do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Exactly.
putting the hammer down, yes.
Not only do it, but specifying how you were supposed to do it.
Yes.
Just down to the very minute detail. Anybody else? I had a question about DENREC. Are they just dragging their feet on that permit, or do they have a problem with it?
I think there might be no, I don't think there's an issue with that, or it's even reached the point where they can review it to tell us whether they have a problem with it.
Okay.
That's either how far behind they might be, or I'm just not sure.
Okay,
And I hesitate to comment or be critical here.
no, okay, I understand.
Maybe they have staffing problems.
Maybe.
Well, I think you're doing even though we have a staffing shortage, and I understand that, but I think finding the alternatives, like the different groups to do the swales and also the Moby mats and everything, that shows, I mean, it's a solution, at least you're moving forward with it. It's not that you're not doing anything.
But we're going from paying employees $15 an hour to
Yeah.
writing contracts for $2,000 or $3,000 for work we could do ourselves.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's going to be pricey, and then we're also having to pay overtime to have things done, the installs, the cleanups.
Right,
So it's going to be costly unless we can bring more people on board.
right. And it's the standard of excellence that people are used to, so thank you for doing that alternative.
You've always been very proactive,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah,
But thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Okay,
Moving on to new business?
yes.
All right, first one on the new business, discussion, consideration, and possible vote on setting a date for the town council election at Saturday, September 11th, 2021, between 12 noon and 6 p.m. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Kilmer. As you know, under the provisions of the town charter, the annual election is to be held on the first Saturday after Labor Day at a time and place within the town determined by the council. And also, anyone wishing to file as a candidate for the election must file a written notice of intention, also known as an application for candidacy, in the town manager's office at Town Hall no later than 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. And that's the 45 days before the election, the deadline for filing is, and that's under the provisions of our charter as well. So therefore, I move that the town council election be held on September 11th, 2021, from 12 noon to 6 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Second, next item on the, under new business, the discussion, consideration, and possible vote on appointments to the election board and election officers. Mayor.
Oh, yes, thank you. Excuse me. I got them right here. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, the Election Board and Officer Appointments 2021. For the Election Board, we have Charles McMullen, Chair, and Chris Armuller. And as election officers, we have Suzanne Evans, Andrea Gowetzky, Jan Kinsella, John Gong, Carol Califf, Denise Folliard, and Marissa Miller. And there are 3 new people on there. They are all residents and property owners of Bethany Beach, and I provided some of their background to you so you know them: Carol Califf, Denise Folliard, and Marissa Miller. And I'd like to make a motion that the council approve these people as the members of the election board and officers for the 2021 election.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Next item on the agenda, discussion, consideration, and possible vote on setting a date for the town council organizational meeting for Monday, September 20th, 21 at 10 a.m. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kilmer. The organizational meeting under the charter, it must be held no sooner than 7 days after the election and at the next practicable date. And so, given that, it would be Monday, September 20th. So I move that we set the date for the town council organizational meeting for Monday, September 20, 2021 at 10 a.m.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on the purchase of a 2013 Chevrolet Silverado in the amount of $27,500. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, in this year's budget, the council approved the purchase of 2 additional vehicles. Both we intended to purchase used. One was $10,000 for a runabout, if you will, extra runabout for staff here at Town Hall, for maintenance to be able to visit our other sites to do cleaning, and for those people that need to do mail runs and such, so we could not use the van that you all use to travel in as much as we have in order to preserve it and keep it in fairly decent shape. So we allocated 10 for the runabout and $20K for the purchase of a pickup truck, with the hope that we could find something that would be workable, that we could let the guards use. In the last couple of years, we have purchased used trucks for the lifeguards, and because we didn't know the vehicle's origins and probably a couple of other reasons that related to use, they did not hold up very well. So what we found here this year is, because of a number of drivers in the economy, new cars are harder to come by. Used cars are really being sold at a premium, and we weren't having very much luck in trying to find a vehicle specific to the guards. We had staff look for vehicles for us. Some of our staff members have a predilection to like to do these types of things, and we found a used 2013 Chevrolet Silverado that we were able to purchase for $27,500. It's a vehicle with very few miles on it for its years. It's a vehicle whose NADA and Blue Book trade-in value is $31,000, and its private sale value is somewhere between $32,000 and $35,000. What we're going to do with this is buy this and split the purchase between the water department and our general revenue budget, and then give the truck that this replaces in the water department to the lifeguards, because it's our truck. We've maintained it for years. It has 70,000 miles on it, but we know it's in serviceable condition, and the guards should be able to get a good number of years of use from it. Another thing that we've done that we'll not do anymore is, in years past, when the guards stop using the vehicle, Public Works has taken the vehicle. So from now on, we'll take these vehicles, we'll set them aside, we'll clean them, detail them, and store them for the winter. The guards get into them again, so they pick up more years of life, and we don't have to do this little dance as frequently as we are now. So you have a PO in front of you for the purchase of a 2013 Chevrolet Silverado truck with 35,000 miles on it for $27,500.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? Okay, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes carry it. Thank you very much, Mr. Gravier. Before we close, just for the record, are there any comments or questions from the public? No?
No.
Okay, just want to do it for the record. Seeing no comments or questions from the public and none at the council table, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Healy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And speed record.
Hey, Cliff, I wonder if that's one of my old trucks.